our Bassmasters TV cameras are on the Potomac River at Charles County, Maryland for the Bassmaster BP Top 100 tournament. This is tidal river fishing. Being at the right place at the right time is uppermost in a game plan. Bass move and bite with the changing tidal conditions. At low tide, the largemouth hold on the wood. Flipping a jig is a proven technique. On high tide, work the grass beds along the river channel. A soft plastic jerk bait or buzz bait makes them strike in the weeds, and the action, it's hard stopping. But the key to winning this 4-day tournament could be a crankbait. It's the go-to lure for the pros when they need a bite. Stay tuned. I'm Bob Cobb. The Bassmasters will be right back with first-round action in the $291,000 Bassmaster BP Top 100 from the Potomac River.
The Potomac River, downstream from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, and the site of the $291,000 Bassmaster BP Top 100 tournament. A 4-day event on the Bass Angler Sportsman Society's tournament trail, pairing the top pro anglers with amateur partners. The first place pro earns $46,000. The leading amateur wins a $19,000 fully rigged Ranger bass boat. The pros run the boat and select the fishing locations. Gary Klein, the 1993 BASS Angler of the Year, has staked a claim on a spot near the Woodrow Wilson I-95 bridge. Klein has vowed to win or lose the tournament on this spot. He spent the 3 practice days camped here, hoping to convince other contestants to his squatter's rights. But this first morning, there are a few claim jumpers in sight. The spot is well known to previous anglers in Bassmaster tournament trail events on the Potomac. At times, the huge grass bed is loaded up with hungry largemouth bass, and scoring a 5-bass tournament limit can come quickly on just as many casts. However, the key to winning this tournament will be to figure out how to catch the larger fish. Just 12-inch keeper-sized bass won't measure up in this bass-rich fishery. Gary Klein thinks his risk-it-all plan will pay off.
I think we've fished up here 5 years. And out of those 5 years, every time I fished this spot, I've caught 15, 16-pound stringers off of it. And it seems like after the event was over with, I always had the impression that had I really spent the time I needed to on that spot, I had won the event. So this year, I just, I made the commitment. And I know what's here. I know the type of fish that live here. And that massive grass bed that's in the background right there is really the key to this spot. The fish that I'm catching off the end of this little point here relate to that grass bed. And during the high tides or the low tides, the fish just migrate around the edge of this point. So they don't live here all the time, but they just move through. And if I happen to be here, I'll catch some 3- and 4-pound fish.
A half-mile above the I-95 bridge, Jay Yellis is casting a crankbait along a row of pilings and rock piles. Yellis caught over 61 pounds of bass in this general area last fall to place second here in the BP Top 100 tournament. So far, only small non-keepers are showing up. However, Yellis says the bite picks up on the incoming and high tide. In the same area, less than 200 yards away, Randy Dearman, another Texas pro, is flipping a heavy jig along a wheat bed. The tide is important to his success, too.
It's not that they're not there in that area, it's just that they're so orientated to feeding by the tide, and when the tide moves, it moves the bait in or moves it out, and that's the whole deal. The fish might be there, but they just don't seem like they bite until the tide does a certain thing. And these particular fish here I'm fishing, they bite better on the incoming tide.
Less than 150 yards distant, on the west bank of the Potomac, David Fritz, the 1993 Bassmasters Classic World Champion, is catching bass this first day. As would be expected, Fritz is using a crankbait, a Pose 300 series. He's been working the diving plug over the top of underwater vegetation. Fritz, who last week won the Bassmaster Virginia Invitational, is among the favorites here, too. David weighed in over 55 pounds in the September 1992 tournament to place third. And this size bass will put the North Carolina pro in contention again at this afternoon's weigh-in. From the looks of the creeks, the Charles County, Maryland Tourism Department hasn't been exaggerating when they talk about world-class bassin on the Potomac. Anything less than a 5 bass bag is way below par in the pro division. Tommy Biffle of Oklahoma takes the early lead with 15 pounds 6 ounces. Texas pro Randy Dearman weighs in 15 pounds 8 ounces, but a dead bass costs him 2 ounces and the outright lead. So Dearman and Biffle share the leaderboard honors with 15 pounds 6 ounces, followed by Claude Fishburne of Georgia with 14 pounds 12 ounces. Fishburne's 6-pound 5-ounce lunker earns a $1,000 bonus for the big bass of the day. But amateur Randy Scully of Trenton, New Jersey bested the pros. This 6-pound 6-ounce lunker is worth $400 and a lunker-size grin. Defending champion Jim Bitter of Florida has 8 pounds 11 ounces. A slow start for him. Last time, Bitter scored 68 pounds 15 ounces, almost all of it off a single rock pile.
Go back to some of the same order?
Yeah, like Mother Hubbard's cover, the rock was bare today.
It happened.
Day 2, sunny and bright. Perfect conditions for Tommy Biffle and his favorite flippin' technique. The co-leader is working a tributary just minutes from the weigh-in location. For the moment, Biffle is casting a topwater buzzbait while moving between shoreline targets. The surface skimmer is also a good bird dog. A missed strike, but maybe not a lost opportunity. Take note of Biffle's quick reaction, his 1-2 punch. He follows up with a jig and pork combo. And bingo! He's got his first keeper of the day. This morning, the tide is out. For Tommy Biffle's lure presentation, that's good.
High tide seems to be when it's the toughest to catch them. But low tide is the easiest, and anytime it's moving, it's pretty good. Making a current and making them feed. Thing I've found out, if you find a good area on these trees like these, is every time that tide moves, it can reposition those fish and move some more fish up on them. So it's not like fishing at home where if you catch a fish out of a tree, you know, you might as well not come back.
By the time our cameras catch up to co-leader Randy Dearman, he's changed techniques. Early this morning, a jig and pork produced a few strikes along his upriver weed bed. Now he's fishing a spinnerbait over the scattered grass with some success. But he's struggling today to weigh in a 5 bass limit. However, for Tommy Biffle, his day is progressing according to plan. And at the Day 2 weigh-in, Tommy Biffle looks like a good bet to win this BP Top 100.
Look at this. 19 pounds, 4 ounces. That is remarkable. Let's give a good hand, people. Bingo. And Tommy, I want you to reach in and hold up that big bass. He's got one incredible bass. This fat bass is going to go up. It'll make a, what weight is it? It'll go with 6 pounds. Look at this, people.
Oh boy, that 7-pound, 15-ounce heavyweight is a big boost to Tommy Biffle's chances. He leads by 3 pounds, 12 ounces over Stacy King of Missouri and is 6 pounds ahead of Denny Brower in 3rd place. Stacy moved up from 6th to 2nd. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back with 3rd round action in the Bassmaster BP Top 100 tournament on the Potomac River from Charles County, Maryland.
He didn't have enough weight to his body, did he?
Day 3, and a new challenge for the Bassmaster BP Top 100 pros and amateur partners. Wind. Strong wind and waves are racing down the Potomac. Stacy King, in 2nd place, abandons his spot on the Greenway Flats and heads for protected waters in a creek. Rockin' and rollin', Jerry Williams of Arkansas, trying to hold on to 5th place in the standings, can't fish his best spot. He's got to adjust. Tournament leader Tommy Biffle's having problems too. He's stuck on a sandbar. The winds push the tide back. John Murray of Arizona is fishing the mouth of Mattawoman Creek within view of the weigh-in site. He's out of the wind, but he may be running out of fish too. Murray's in 4th place with back-to-back limits off this very obvious grass bed. Other contestants make this their last stop of the day. For Murray, it's his first and only stop. Jerry Williams hasn't stopped fishing a spinnerbait. It's the only lure he's throwing in the tournament. He's slow rolling the homemade spinnerbait over the top of an underwater milfoil grass bed. Williams is boating 4 limits a day, around 20 bass, but can't connect with a big fish. Tommy Biffle, the tournament leader, is sticking with his jig and pork, but for him, it's been downhill today.
Finally got one to bite.
And finally, Stacy King is able to fish his favorite grass bed along the river channel. With the wind abating, King's flipping a plastic ringworm into the holes and pockets in the grass. He's fishing the June bug color worm with a 1/4 ounce pegged sinker. Tommy Biffle has switched to a spinnerbait, but it's a case of too little, too late. So goes the Bassin' Battle of the Potomac. The tide seems to be changing in favor of Stacy King.
A limited bass for Stacy, and the weight, 11 pounds and 15 ounces. All right, let's give a nice hand, and Bob Cobb, that'll put him right up there, will it not? Puts him in the first place, Stacy. Tell us what's going on. Is it tougher?
It was a lot tougher for me, Ray. My 2 primary areas both got ruined by the wind. It blew in there. I couldn't fish them in the first place, and secondly, it muddied them up. So I had to go to some backup stuff I had, and I was very fortunate. I only caught 7 or 8 fish all day long.
With Tommy Biffle slipping today, there's a new challenger.
16th place yesterday with 22 pounds and 4 ounces with Gary Klein, past year's Angler of the Year. A solid limited bass, folks. I predict he'll move way up in the standing. Watch the creel and watch the scale. 17 pounds and 14 ounces, best string of the day. By golly, what a catch.
Folks, I'm still sitting on that spot, and it hasn't been too good for me. You know, I've had a few little fish, and today, you know, I caught a nice stringer of fish, but, you know, I only had a couple bites. So, you know, it's not like I'm catching every cast. I'm struggling.
Gary Klein jumps to 3rd place on the scoreboard, only 2 pounds 11 ounces behind the leader, Stacy King. Denny Brower climbs a rung to 2nd. Tommy Biffle, yesterday's leader, drops to 6th with only 2 keepers today. Don't go away. This Bassmaster BP Top 100 is far from over. We'll be right back with final round action. Day 4, the showdown round of the Bassmaster BP Top 100. And tournament leader Stacy King is optimistic.
We've got the cloud cover, and still we don't have the wind, so I'm thinking I can catch them on the buzz baits and spinner baits early, hopefully, or at least get a couple, 3 nice fish this morning.
Stacy King's been close to winning his first BASS tournament several times. Hopefully today will be the day. But you can't always figure what a largemouth bass will do. Amateur partner Alan Sampson of Illinois from the back seat hooks up with a good one. Fishing the back of the boat behind a pro like Denny Brower jokingly is like following a seine. But don't laugh. Amateur partner Tim Goff of Virginia has hooked a good fish. This final round is taking a weird turn of events. But for Gary Klein, his whole sit-and game plan is paying off. He's fishing a crankbait. The crankbait bite is also working for David Fritz, who started today in 5th place, only 3 pounds 5 ounces behind the leader.
Oh yeah, I need that bad. It's a good one. God, come here. Jeez, I can't believe I caught that fish after all that. Whew.
Gary Klein believes his retrieve speed is key to his success.
Yeah, the way I've been catching most of my fish is with the weighted 400 pose plugs or a Bill Norman DD22. And the key to my retrieve has been just basically slower than everybody else. There's a lot of fish on these areas. They're not very active. They're real hard to make them hit. It's like you have to finesse them, you know, into striking the crank plug, and therefore you have a lot of fish that are just barely hooked.
And proper lure presentation is important too, as Denny Brower demonstrates with this cast, back under a dock. Stacy King is still trying for a big bite on a topwater buzzbait. But as before, you just can't always figure out a largemouth bass. Alan Sampson got another keeper on his pink-colored soft plastic jerkbait. If you think today's events don't prove a largemouth bass is predictably unpredictable, then you won't believe this.
Thank you. Jay Yellis, folks, in 8th place when he started out this morning. He has 5 bass. He has a big fish. Watch the creel, watch the scale, watch the scale, watch out, look out, look out. 19 pounds, 3 ounces. Let's give him a good hand. Biggest catch today, and he moves into first place. This takes the lead away from everybody else. What did you do? And did you change any tactic today that was different than the first 2 or 3 days?
No, actually, Ray, I fished the same technique and tactics I've been using all week. Fishing is such a funny thing. I come in with a big string and you think, geez, you know, that guy's on a lot of fish, he's catching a lot of fish. I had only 6 bites today, and at 2 o'clock I only had 2 fish in the live well. I caught 4 of those that I weighed in the last hour, and it was an area that I'd been fishing all week and just catching, you know, a few fish on. Yesterday I'd never had a bite there, and I had 2 fish with an hour to go. I figured, well, I'll go back and give it one more try, and these 4-pounders started eating it up. I was catching them on a Stanley Vibra-Shaft spinnerbait with a wedge blade on it.
Unbelievable. Jay Yellis of Texas charges from out of the pack at the final curtain to win his first BASS tournament, a prize worth $46,000. Gary Klein almost did it. He's second, only 8 ounces short. David Fritz finishes third, just 13 ounces out of first. And the winner of the amateur division, Bill Kramer of Maryland, with a total of 34 pounds, 7 ounces.
Bill. Good job. Thank you, thank you.
Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by Wrangler, the most comfortable jeans known to man.
All the big fish that I caught came on a Stanley Vibra-Shaft spinnerbait. This is the exact lure that I was using today to catch the big stringer of fish. In the last hour, I had 4 big bass on this lure, a couple in the 5-pound class and a couple of 3.5-pounders. It's a Stanley Vibra-Shaft with I was using a small nickel Colorado blade and a number 4.5 gold wedge blade, a white skirt, no trailer, 3/8 ounce head. I was fishing the bait just in and around the milfoil and the hydrilla that was growing up there in Washington, D.C., kind of working on the outside edge of the hydrilla, working it in the pockets and in the holes, and I'd kind of work it through there, and I'd let it fall and let it flutter down in the holes, and that seemed to be one of the keys to getting the fish to bite. A little tip I can give you as far as when you're spinnerbait fishing in the weeds like I was today, and you're always getting hung up. You know how you have to slap your rod on the water or slap your bait on the water to get the weeds off your lure. One little tip that I can give is to I use this fishing glue, and I put it's a real strong super glue, and it's good for a lot of different things. One thing I use it for is I put just a little drop right up here on the head of the spinnerbait. That's all it takes. And you just slide my skirt up there, and that spinnerbait skirt is on there for good. Doesn't matter how many times you slap the skirt on the water to get weeds off, it'll be on there all day. You can also use this fishing glue for your knots. It adds extra strength to your fishing knot. I use it especially with the new braided lines that are out now. The braided lines have a tendency to slip, and that glue can come in handy for that also. But that's the lure I was using, and it was just one of those days, you know, one of those days you dream about, catching all those big fish in the last hour, but that's how I did it right there.
What can you say? But Yogi was right. It's never over until it's over. Our congratulations to Jay Yellis on his first ever victory on the Bassmaster Tournament Trail. But I'll make you one bet. It won't be his last. He's a winner. Next week, our Bassmasters TV cameras are going fishing for fun with former world champion Ken Cook. His idea of a good time is stream fishing near his Mears, Oklahoma home. And if you want to have lots of fun, take along Ken's twin boys, Hunter and Tanner. There's some tips on how to fish streams and several pointers on how to get kids interested in fishing. Join us right here. For the Bassmasters, I'm Bob Cobb. See you all next week.